people can be so opinionated when it comes to language learning, but if we're really honest with ourselves, we all know that learning a language can only improve our lives, especially if we are living in a country where our mother tongue language isn't spoken. Now, the idea for this vlog series was born on the back of a very frank and open conversation that I had at the weekend with my boyfriend to do with my language learning progress, because if I'm brutally honest with myself, I have been living in Italy for 3 years, as most of you know, and my Italian hasn't really progressed very much in that time. Now, don't get me wrong, there are a lot of different reasons as to why that is. Workload and having lots of organisation to do in terms of moving here being two very big factors. But when I sifted through the excuses, I realised that the truth was I was feeling very overwhelmed, and I think this is something that a lot of language learners can feel, particularly very early on in the journey, because when you are ready to learn a language, and trust me, you have to be ready to learn a language first. It doesn't matter how much pressure may be placed on you. If you are not mentally ready to learn a language, it won't happen. When you are mentally ready to learn a language, you suddenly have a lot of different resources to pick and choose from. So for me, I had many books that I had purchased over the years because I believed at one point that the answer, the solution to my Italian learning was in the next book that I bought, and then the next one, and then the next one. I think you know the answer. It's not contained in the book. And also I had some YouTube channels that I had discovered, and also some Instagram accounts that I'd started following. So I had all of these different potential resources, as well as some podcasts as well. Let's not forget the podcasts. But I didn't really have a structure. And so because of this, I started to procrastinate. I dabbled a little bit, maybe 30 minutes here, 10 minutes there, but not enough of a routine or structure to really make any progress. And after that conversation that I had at the weekend, which did sting a little bit, I'm not going to lie, but the best conversations in life always do, I realised I needed to buck my ideas up and do something about it, because I'm a teacher. I motivate and empower my students. It's about time I listened to that myself. Oh. This vlog series is British Beginner to Italian Winner, and it is going to be a weekly insight into my Italian learning and progress, and also to what is working for me, what isn't working, the resources I'm using, and my overall experiences. And I would absolutely love it if you are learning Italian, if you would comment below and let me know, and if you want to join in on this journey with me as well and share your weekly review, and we can hold each other accountable on the journey of learning a language, because I realise I need this. I needed some accountability. So this weekly vlog on a Tuesday is going to be my form of accountability when it comes to learning Italian. And I realise that a lot of you may benefit from this vlog as well, because I ran a poll on my community tab the other week asking how many of you were currently studying Italian or would like to study Italian in the future. And there was a good percentage of you that are currently studying Italian and also who would like to study Italian in the future. So I feel this vlog series can benefit you, whichever category you may be in. So let's begin with this vlog series, shall we? Because when I was doing my research, I realised that there are lots of videos on YouTube which show you success stories of learning a language, or will share tips and techniques to learning a language, but there aren't many that actually walk you step by step, week by week, with a real person experiencing all that they experience when it comes to learning a language. So that's the purpose of this vlog. And let's start, shall we, with week one. Week one, we are going to talk about the resources I'm using and how I'm going to organise myself to be able to study Italian. So let's get into it, shall we? Let's begin with the resources that I'm going to be using on my language learning journey. So I've decided to be very selective when it comes to the resources that I'm going to use for my study, because part of the feelings of procrastination that I have been feeling have stemmed from the fact that I have felt overwhelmed. So I need to keep my resources very streamlined in order to be more focused and have greater success with my studies. So let's begin with, first of all, with the books that I'm going to use on my study program. So the first is this book here, Instant Italian. It's in English, of course, because it helps me when I'm learning a language to be able to see my own mother tongue in there for explanations. And I'm going to put all the links below as well. They are going to be affiliate links. So I may receive a small payment through Amazon if you purchase through those links, just to be very clear and transparent, but it does not in any way affect anything that you may pay for. So let's have a little look. So this book I like because it is divided into lessons. So lesson 2 is where I'm currently up to from the 20 minutes or 20 minutes there that I've been dabbling. But what I like about it is it includes like tables and pictures, and I'm a very visual learner, so for me I need something like this to keep me motivated. So this is the first book that I'm going to use to give me some structure with my Italian learning. The second book that I'm going to use to help me with my vocabulary, Come si dice, which basically means how do you say this, or what is this in Italian, for example. And I'm going to use this because, again, there are lots of pictures and vocabulary and words in everyday situations, so practical situations where I can practice the vocabulary when I'm shopping or when I'm out and about. So this is definitely going to be something that I'm going to find useful in my weekly learning. Then I'm also going to use, to tie in with vocabulary, this little visual phrase book that I have. Now this was part of a set. I think it was something like Learn Italian in 3 months, something similar. So I think you might be able to buy this individually, I'm not sure. But again, it is, I don't know if you can see with my ring light, but all different pictures and the meanings in Italian. So for this, I think this is going to be very, very helpful and useful for my vocabulary. And then the last book that I've decided that I'm going to use is this. Collins Italian Grammar and Practice. So again, it is with an English explanation because that helps me to understand. And we have exercises, and this is probably the heavier book, should I say, of all the books that I'm going to use because there are no pictures. It is literally text and tables. So I think using a book like this for me works if I have other books with pictures and visual images to balance it out with. I can't personally study a language with just all text because I find it doesn't interest me in that same way. So they are the 4 books that I'm planning to use. I'm also going to be supplementing the learning that I do in the books with a fantastic YouTube channel that I recently discovered called Learn Italian with Lucrezia. So this is her channel up here. And I really like her style. She obviously always speaks in Italian, but you can add subtitles into English to help. But I really like her style and I like her videos. And through her videos, I recently watched one, actually, I'm going to link it just here, you can see, where she recommends some Italian YouTubers to watch. And this is great because these are YouTubers who aren't teaching you something. They are talking about beauty, or they are talking about travel, or they are talking about some other fun and interesting fact. So you aren't technically watching an academic channel when you watch these YouTubers, but you hear Italian in everyday situations. So I think that was a fantastic video, and it was watching that video that actually made me realise that her channel was one that I would like to use to supplement the learning that I'm going to be doing with my book. Now, of course, I've got the resources planned. I now need to devise some kind of structure to be able to commit to my study program. So I'm a Virgo, everything has to be in order and I have to have some kind of program to work with. So I decided to devise a study program that works for me. Now, the idea behind this study program came from a fantastic book that I'm currently reading called Atomic Habits by James Clear. And within that book, he talks about, first of all, committing to making yourself 1% better every single day, which I think is a fantastic mindset because everything compounds. So if you work on making yourself just 1% better every single day, that compounds and compounds. And before you know it, you are so much better than you were 2 or 3 months ago. And of course it can work in the negative way, but you know, we're not focusing on that. So yes, the idea behind it came from that, from the making yourself 1% better, but also from the fact that you need to form habits that are linked in with what you already do. So habits generally take about 21 days, I think I read somewhere, for you to form a new habit and really stick to it. But it can be very difficult sometimes, particularly with study. Like if you are not used to studying and it's been a very long time since you have studied, you need to find a way to connect this new period of time that you are going to dedicate to study with an existing habit. And it is that connection that enables you to form a new pattern, a new habit. So that idea kind of came from Atomic Habits. So it's a fantastic book as well, non-Italian related if you fancy reading something new. But for me personally, I haven't completed any form of sustained study since 2017 when I was studying to be a police officer. And if you don't already know, in the UK to become a police officer you have to sit a series of formal exams, and they are all around British law and legislation and police procedures and policies. They're very, very heavy exams, and we have what are known in the police as white notes, full of all of this information that you have to study and remember for the exam, and you only progress when you pass each exam stage. So, you know, there was a lot of intensive study that I was doing around that time, but prior to that, it was my formal education that I studied for. But since 2017, I haven't really completed any form of sustained study. So for this, I do need to form a pattern of behaviour, a habit around my study to get me back into that mindset. So I decided to devise a timetable, and I have decided to commit to studying 4 weekdays a week, so Tuesday through to Friday. And I've decided to attach my study time to my morning routine. So my morning routine consists of a few mindset things that I do. So I want to attach my study time to that morning routine because that is how the habit will form. So I've decided to commit to 30 minutes of sustained study 4 times a week. Now, it may not sound a lot, but I'm a big believer in choosing a pattern of study that is going to be realistic for you and something that you can maintain. Now, for me, my work schedule is full. As I mentioned before, I work most days until 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock at night. And so for this reason, I need to choose an amount of study time that is going to be practical for me and something that I can easily do every day without having to skip a few days or having to cut back on. So for this reason, 30 minutes is the perfect amount of time for me to do some study. And when you compound it over the course of a week, that's 2 hours worth of study that I've done. So, you know, I don't believe that you have to do like 1 hour of study to progress in a language. Of course, the more time you dedicate, the more progress you will make. But if your schedule doesn't allow for a dedicated 1 hour worth of study, then 30 minutes 4 times a week is just as effective, because when it all compounds, every single minute that you spend studying compounds and becomes something greater. So for this reason, 30 minutes 4 times a week, it works for me. And then I've decided that on the 3 days, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, that I am not studying formally, I'm going to be still listening to something in Italian. So whether that is watching one of the YouTubers that I've recently started subscribing to, whether it's watching an Italian TV series, listening to some music in Italian, I'm still going to do an element of study, but it's not going to be academic. It's going to be more of a leisurely pace. So over the course of 7 days, every day I'm including some form of Italian in what I do, but there are just going to be 4 days a week where it is more sustained and more academic. And I feel that this is a structure that interests me, it keeps me motivated, and the time period as well works really well for me as well. I'm better in the mornings when it comes to learning than later in the day when I'm tired. So that was another reason why I wanted to attach my study to my morning routine. But this is something that will personally work for me. You have to discover what's better for you and your lifestyle and your learning ability. But certainly this is something that works for me and what I want to do. So now I have this study program with my 30 minutes of study in the morning, and I'm going to supplement. So I'm going to take a lesson from my instant Italian book and I'm going to work my way through it. And then I'm also going to listen to any additional lessons that may be on the YouTube channel that I'm following, just to supplement it. So I'm getting lots of information from different places, but always in a really streamlined way. So this is what I plan to do for week 1. I look forward to giving you an update next week with how I've got on and the things that I've covered, and also I will speak a little bit in Italian with you as well, with the vocabulary that I've been learning. So Yeah, let's start this, shall we? British beginner to Italian winner. I'll see you in the next episode.